Can Muslims have Jewish or Christian friends? Does Islam prescribe death for leaving the faith? These verses are cited as proof. Let's look at what they actually say. Quran 551 and 489. Here is the transliteration of verse 551. Ya ayyuha ladhana amanu la tattakhidhu yahuda wan nasara awliya'a. Ba'duhum awliya'u ba'din. The most common English rendering of this verse is, O you who believe, do not take the Jews and Christians as friends. They are friends of one another. That is the version most people encounter, and it is the version we need to examine carefully. The verse is addressed to believers and contains a prohibition, la tatakidu, meaning do not take. The object of that prohibition is the word awliya, and it is that single word that carries the entire weight of this verse's controversy. Awliya is the plural of wali, one of the richest and most layered words in the Arabic language. In classical Arabic, a wali is not a friend in the sense of someone you share a meal with or enjoy conversation with. A wali is a protector, someone with authority over you, or someone to whom you owe political or military allegiance. In Islamic law, a wali is a legal guardian. In Sufi tradition, awliya Allah means the friends of God, saints. The word carries connotations of loyalty, guardianship, and protective alliance. Not everyday social friendship. This distinction is not a modern reinterpretation. It is how classical Arabic dictionaries have always defined the term. Now watch what happens when 6 translators attempt to render awliya into English. Pickthall in 1930, take not the Jews and Christians for friends. Yusuf Ali in 1934, take not the Jews and Christians for your friends and protectors. Sahih International in 1997, do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. Muhammad Asad in 1980, do not take the Jews and Christians for your allies. Abdul Halim in 2004, do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. And Khattab in 2016, do not take Jews and Christians as guardians. The older translations, Pickthall and Yusuf Ali, use the word friends, which in modern English implies personal, social companionship. The more recent and linguistically precise translations use allies, which correctly reflects the political and military dimension of the Arabic wali. Khattab goes further still, rendering it as guardians, pointing to the legal authority dimension of the word. A prohibition on taking military or political protectors from among treaty-hostile parties is a very different instruction from a prohibition on having Jewish or Christian friends. Surah Al-Ma'idah was revealed late in the Medinan period, a time of active military conflict between the Muslim community and several tribal confederations. Some of those confederations included Jewish and Christian groups who had broken treaties and allied with the Quraysh against the Muslims. The verse is addressing a specific political situation. Do not take as your military patrons or protective allies those who are actively aligned against you. This is an instruction about political and military loyalty during wartime, not about social interaction. It is impossible to read 551 responsibly without placing it alongside other Quranic passages on the same topic. Verse 68, revealed in the same period, states explicitly, God does not forbid you from being kind and just to those who have not fought you because of your faith or driven you out of your homes. God loves those who are just. Kindness and justice toward non-Muslims who are not actively hostile, explicitly permitted, indeed encouraged. The contextual reading, awliya as military political protectors in a specific conflict, is the only reading that makes the Quran coherent with itself. Now to Quran 489. The transliteration reads, Wadu la takfuruna kama kafaru fatakununa sawan, fala tattakhidhu minhum awliya, fa in tawallaw fakhudhuhum waqtuluhum haythu wajadtumuhum. The most common English rendering of this verse is, they wish you would disbelieve as they disbelieved. Do not take them as allies, but if they turn away, seize them and kill them wherever you find them. That is the version most often cited, and it is alarming on its face. So let us look at what comes immediately after it. And the very next verse, 490, reads in transliteration, Ila ladhna yasiluna ila qawmin baynakum wa baynahum mathaqun, fa in itazalukum wa alqaw ilaykumus salama, فَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبِيلًا. The common rendering of 490 is, except those connected to a people with whom you have a treaty. If they withdraw from you and offer you peace, then God has not given you any cause against them. The exemption is immediate and explicit, and almost never cited alongside 489. The verse is not about people who simply leave Islam privately. The key word is tawalla. They turned away. In Arabic, this means active defection, going over to the enemy side. It does not mean quietly stopping belief. The verse is addressed to a specific group, the munafiqun, often translated as hypocrites, people who had declared themselves Muslim but were secretly collaborating with enemy forces. This is the language of military law, not religious inquisition. The instruction addresses battlefield traitors, not people who quietly stop believing. Now look at how translators handle the conditional clause, the word "if they turn away," which determines who the command actually applies to. Pickthall, and if they turn back, then take them and kill them wherever ye find them. Yusuf Ali, but if they turn renegades, seize them and slay them wherever you find them. Sahih International, but if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them. Muhammad Asad, and if they turn hostile, seize them and slay them wherever you find them. Abdul Halim, if they turn hostile, seize and kill them wherever you encounter them. Katab, but if they turn away, seize them and kill them wherever you find them. Notice Yusuf Ali's 1934 translation, renegades, which in English strongly implies religious apostates. But the Arabic tawalla does not mean apostasy. It means active turning away, defection, going over to the enemy side. Muhammad Asad and Abdul Halim both add the word hostile because they consider it essential to convey that the verse is about active aggression, not passive disbelief. This is a scholarly judgment call, and it matters enormously for how the verse is understood. Quran 489, read in full and in context, does not prescribe a death penalty for leaving Islam. It describes a wartime response to active military defection. The classical Islamic legal tradition did develop a ruling on apostasy, in some schools carrying the death penalty. But that ruling was not derived primarily from 489. It was developed through hadith literature and the jurisprudence of the early caliphate period, a political context in which leaving Islam was legally equivalent to treason against the state, because religion and political community were not yet separated. Many contemporary Muslim scholars argue that this ruling does not translate automatically to modern pluralist societies. Scholars including Abdullahi and Khalid Abu al-Fadl have argued that there is no Quranic basis for executing someone who privately changes their belief. Here too, the broader Quranic context matters. Verse 256, one of the most unambiguous statements in the entire Quran, says there is no compulsion in religion. The right way has become distinct from the wrong way. And verse 1829 states, let whoever wishes believe, and let whoever wishes disbelieve. A reading of 489 that makes Islam mandate death for leaving the faith places it in direct contradiction with these verses. The contextual reading that 489 addresses military defection, not private belief, is the only reading that allows the Quran to be internally coherent. Two verses about loyalty and freedom, both deeply misunderstood when lifted from their Arabic, their context, and the verses that surround them. The word awliya does not mean friends. The command in 489 addresses military traitors, not quiet doubters, and the Quran that contains these verses also contains, there is no compulsion in religion. These things are not contradictions. They are a text that has to be read as a whole. Sources are linked below. If there is a verse you want examined, leave it in the comments. Subscribe for the next episode.